We got the Big 12 championship game. 10-2 Baylor taking on 11-1 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State goes into this game right now as a 6.5-point favorite. This game is going to be played on ABC this Saturday with a 12 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. Oklahoma State got a huge win against Oklahoma last week, 37-33, in Lincoln Riley's last game as the head coach for Oklahoma. And when you look at Baylor, they survived the scare against Texas Tech last week, 27-24. Now I know there's going to be a good amount of Oklahoma State fans out there who are going to say, man, JT, Baylor doesn't have a chance. First of all, because they barely beat Texas Tech, and second of all, because we already beat them the first time we matched up against them earlier in the season. Week 5, Oklahoma State came up on top in that meeting, 24-14. Now, I want to debunk those two narratives that Oklahoma State fans are probably going to throw at me in the comment section. Baylor is a better football team now than what they were week 5. Same thing with Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's offense wasn't really all that impressive. It's pretty much the Jaylen Warren show, but this offense has kind of picked things up. Spencer Sanders still is Spencer Sanders. You still don't really trust him all that much, but you know he's a lot better now than what he was when the season first started. Now, that Texas Tech game was a game that worried head coach of Baylor, Dave Aranda, a lot. He alluded to this. He said that, you know, it's easy to get caught up and looking forward to the Big 12 championship game. And that Texas Tech game was going to be kind of tight for them. On top of that, they didn't want to play Jerry Bohannon because he was dealing with an injury. He did suit up the play. He was warming up, but they ended up going with their other quarterback who performed pretty solidly. So that Texas Tech game was kind of, you know, Baylor, you know, going to struggle because that was their final regular season game, and Dave Aranda kind of alluded to that, but he was still happy with how his team performed. Now, when you look at the last time these two teams matched up on the field, Oklahoma State's defense pretty much pummeled Baylor. And you got to remind you that Oklahoma State's defense played a great game despite the fact that Spencer Sanders chalked up 3 interceptions in their first matchup. So imagine how good this Oklahoma State defense could be this game if you don't have Spencer Sanders turning the football over as many times as he did in their last affair. Now, Baylor's defense is also really talented. We always talk about how great Oklahoma State's defense is, and we're going to get to them in a little bit, but Baylor's defense is really good. And if you are a Oklahoma State fan, what should concern you the most is how good this Baylor defense is against the run. They have the 18th best run defense in the nation, along 119.5 rushing yards per game. So you look at what Baylor did against Oklahoma not too long ago, and you look at, this is the same Oklahoma team that got shredded Oklahoma State's defense last week in Bedlam by Kennedy Brooks. Kennedy Brooks dominated Oklahoma State's defense. I was really surprised how much success Oklahoma had on the ground last week on this Oklahoma State defense. 22 carries for 139 rush yards, 6.3 yards per attempt. Meanwhile, Baylor shut down this Oklahoma offense and this Oklahoma run game. So I would be really concerned if I am a Cowboys fan in this game, because your most reliable playmaker on offense for Oklahoma State this year has been running back Jaylen Warren. Last week, he had 17 carries for 56 rush yards and 1 touchdown versus OU. The last time these two teams matched up, he had 125 rush yards, 36 carries, and 2 touchdowns. It pretty much was the Jaylen Warren show. So I'm pretty sure Dave Aranda and his staff are going to make sure they put the full court press on making sure that they do not allow Jaylen Warren to have the imprint in this rematch like he did in their first go around. So they're probably going to go in and go all out. And if I was Dave Aranda, I probably would say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sell out on the run, and we're going to force Spencer Sanders to prove to us that he can beat us throwing the football downfield. And that leads me to my next talking point, Spencer Sanders. Will Spencer Sanders not lose this game for Oklahoma State? Because every time I watch Oklahoma State, it feels like most of the time they always win in spite of Spencer Sanders versus winning because of Spencer Sanders playing well. Now, Spencer Sanders, I understand why he's a starter. Like, I all this year have been trying to figure out, why does Oklahoma State continue to go with Spencer Sanders at QB? You mean to tell me you don't have no better options? Well, Spencer Sanders is a really good athlete, and I really think that his legs are going to be heavily utilized in this game. His athleticism was a big reason why Oklahoma State won last week against Oklahoma. He had 93 rushing yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown, and they're probably going to rely on his legs in this game if Baylor ends up putting all their emphasis on trying to slow down Jaylen Warren. So they're going to need Spencer Sanders to make sure that he's able to still keep the run game afloat using his legs. And also on top of that, when it comes to picking up yardage when plays break down, he also has a really good arm, but he's really inaccurate, and his decision making is really questionable at times. So for Baylor, you pretty much got to just stop the run and force Spencer Sanders to beat you, because the more he throws the football, the more opportunities you have at forcing a turnover. And for Oklahoma State, you probably want to see Spencer Sanders throwing the ball as least as possible, because that's not really a great game plan, asking him to have to throw the football on a really great Baylor defense. Now, Oklahoma State's defense has been playing at a top 5 level all this year. I believe that this is a top 3, at worst top 5 defense that Mike Gundy has put on the field this year. They had 6 sacks last week against Oklahoma. Even though they got shredded on the ground, they were really good getting off the field on third down. They have the best third down defense in all of college football. They don't allow their opponents to convert on third down 23.72% of the time, which is outstanding. And when you look at Baylor, a team that is pretty balanced in terms of their philosophy, they can beat you on the ground. They can also beat you through the air, but I feel like against better opponents, most of Baylor's success has come on the ground. You think about what Abram Smith did all this year: 1,366 rushing yards, 12 TDs, 6.4 yards per carry. You also got Tristan Ebner, who has 748 rushing yards and 2 TDs on the year. And you think about how much success that Baylor had running the football against Oklahoma not too long ago. I feel like they're going to have to repeat that recipe if they're going to be able to beat Oklahoma State, because when you look at Oklahoma State, I feel like the strength of this defense is definitely the pass rush. They have multiple guys on this defense who can get after the quarterback and cause a lot of chaos. So I feel like their best chance of winning this game is going to be on the ground. And you saw what OU did last week on the ground, especially with the fact that you're probably going to have Jerry Bohannon in this game playing. You also got to take into account what he's able to do with his legs, so that's also going to help out the run game. So I feel like Baylor is probably going to have a better day running the football versus passing the football on this defense, and I don't really think it's a great recipe trying to throw the ball on this Oklahoma State defense. Feel like you got a better chance of running the football, and I feel like the same can be said when the roles are reversed. I feel like for Baylor offensively, Baylor defensively, I feel like the strength of this defense for Baylor is stopping the run, and I feel like for Oklahoma State, you're probably going to have to try to find a way to run the football and make sure that you're able to stay balanced, because I really feel like if you ask Spencer Sanders to have to throw the ball a lot in this game, you're putting yourself at risk of losing this matchup, because I don't really trust him all that much. Now, how healthy is quarterback for Baylor, Jerry Bohannon? Because he's been dealing with a hamstring injury, and it was kind of weird because he was dressed up, he was warming up against Texas Tech, but they ended up going with Blake Sheppin, who is their backup quarterback, and he played very well against a not all that bad Texas Tech team. I know Texas Tech has had a lot of things going on, but that was a really tough spot, especially when you look at Baylor. They are probably looking ahead to this game here, which is another reason why that game was as tight as it was. But you can't judge a team's performance based on previous weeks, because every week is different. Every week could have a different outcome. Look at the Iron Bowl that was played this past weekend. I don't think nobody saw Auburn taking Alabama to 4 overtime periods. So the team I'm going to take the win, I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma State. I've been riding with Oklahoma State all this year, and nothing's going to change in this game. The reason why I'm rolling with Oklahoma State is because I really like their defense. And on top of that, I feel like even though Baylor is really good against the run, I feel like Spencer Sanders, his ability to run the ball off his legs is going to be the different. I also feel like this is going to be a defensive slugfest. Probably going to be moderate scoring. I don't think we're going to have, like a 6-3 score or anything like that. But I really like Oklahoma State because you look at how good they are getting pressure on the quarterback. And I feel like this game is going to come down to which of these two quarterbacks, either Spencer Sanders or Bohannon, is going to be able to make the big throws when it matters. And I'm probably going to have to slide with Oklahoma State, even though I'm not really a big fan of Spencer Sanders. I just feel like the Oklahoma State defense is a lot better than Baylor's defense, and a lot of Baylor fans are probably going to disagree with that. They probably are going to feel like these two defenses are pretty much dead even, which I can understand that, but in passing situations, it will probably be a little bit more easier to throw the ball on Baylor's defense versus being able to throw the football on Oklahoma State's defense when you look at how great their front seven is when it comes to getting consistent pressure on a quarterback. So I'm going to take Oklahoma State to win this game. 20-13 is going to be my final score prediction for this matchup.